Every morning before the sun rose, Raghav stood barefoot on the edge of his field. The earth was cold then, damp with night air, clinging to his skin like it knew him. He would close his eyes for a moment, breathe in the smell of soil and sweat and old rain, and then begin. This land was not rich. It never had been, but it was honest, and it was all he had. Raghav had never seen the inside of a college classroom. As a boy, he had watched other children walk past his house with books under their arms while he followed his father into the fields. His schooling ended early, not because he was lazy, but because hunger does not wait for lessons to finish. When his father fell ill, Raghav became the man of the house before he became a man at all. Years later, when his hands were already cracked and darkened by the sun, when his back already carried a permanent ache, he had children of his own. Two of them. Arav, the elder, curious and quiet, always asking how things worked, and Mira, bright-eyed and stubborn, reading anything she could find. Old newspapers, torn books, even labels on fertilizer bags. Raghav watched them carefully. He saw something in them that frightened him. At night, after long days in the field, they would sit under the dim yellow bulb in their one-room house. Mira would read aloud while Arav listened, nodding, asking questions. Sometimes they spoke of college. Big buildings, libraries, laboratories. Raghav would stay silent, not because he didn't want it for them, but because he didn't know how. College was expensive. Seats failed. Rain was unpredictable. Debt was always close, like a shadow that never left. Still, one evening, as Mira excitedly spoke about becoming a teacher and Arav about becoming an engineer, Raghav said the words that would define the rest of his life. "You will study," he said quietly, "no matter what." From that day on, Raghav worked harder than he ever had before.
For the first time in his need, he woke earlier, slept less, took on extra labor during harvest seasons. When his neighbors rested, he stayed in the field. When his body begged him to stop, he pushed forward. His hands bled, his knees shook, his back burned. He never complained. When the crops failed one year, he sowed his only goat. When money still wasn't enough, he borrowed, quietly, humbly. When his wife worried, he smiled and said, "We will manage." He skipped meals so his children wouldn't have to. He wore the same clothes year after year. He never bought medicine for his aches, because pain, to him, was temporary, but opportunity was not. The day Arav received his college acceptance letter, Raghav read it 3 times, even though he barely understood the words. He recognized only one thing clearly. Mira's letter came a year later. That night, Raghav sat outside alone, under the stars, holding both letters in his hands. His fingers trembled, not from age, but from emotion. He cried silently, so no one would hear. Farmers were not supposed to cry, but fathers did. College life was not easy for the children either. They saw classmates with better clothes, better phones, better confidence. They worked part-time jobs, studied late. Sometimes they felt ashamed of their simple background, but every time they felt like giving up, they thought of their father in the field, bent under the sun, hands in the soil, and they kept going. Years passed. Raghav grew older. His hair turned white. His steps slowed. The field felt heavier each season, but he never told his children how tired he was. On phone calls, he always said the same thing. "I'm fine. Focus on your studies." Then one day, Arav came home. Not for a holiday, but with a job offer. A real one. A good one. Soon after, Mira returned too, appointed as a teacher. They stood together in the same field where their father had once stood alone. Raghav listened as they spoke, about salaries, plans, futures. He nodded, smiling, but not fully understanding. All he knew was this: they had made it. One morning, Arav gently took his father's hands, hands that were rough, scarred, permanently stained by the earth. "Baba," he said softly, "you don't have to work anymore." Raghav laughed. "And sit idle?" Mira smiled through tears. "You already worked for a lifetime." They built him a small new house near the field. Simple, but strong. They paid off his debts quietly. They bought him good clothes he never asked for. Medicine he never complained about needing. One evening, as the sun set over the land he had given everything to, Raghav stood at the edge of the field again. But this time, he wasn't alone. His children stood beside him. The soil was still poor, the work still hard, but his heart was full. He looked at the sky, then at his hands, and finally at his children. Educated, confident, free. "I never went to college," he said softly. Arav shook his head. "You did, Baba." Mira added, "We were your degrees." Raghav smiled. The weight on his back felt lighter than the soil beneath his feet.